Good morning and welcome to the Talk at 10. Today we're going to discuss hormones and why hormones are important because your hormones tell your mitochondria how the environment is. So it wants the mitochondria are what produce your energy. So if you are having issues with pain, if you're having issues with neurogenic pain, if you're having those kinds of issues, then you're having a problem with mitochondria. So people who have mitochondrial issues, what are some conditions? Fibromyalgia, uh, diabetic neuropathy. Throw some other hormonally related issues with mitochondria, neurogenic pain.
I don't know anything with mitochondria.
Oh, well, good morning. So all of the pain syndromes and all of the if you have something that's a syndrome and it's related to pain, typically that has a mitochondrial component. And not only does it have a mitochondrial component, but it will also have a hormonal component because you cannot take the mitochondria and the hormones and separate them. You have to take care of them concurrently. So that's very important to know. And so there is, the basis of what we say all the time: get good sleep, food, nutrition, what makes your hormones?
Fat.
Fats, your fats and your cholesterol. So you have to have those things so that your body can actually make the hormones, make your steroids, make your estrogen and your testosterone, your pregnenolone, your DHA. All of these things come from your good fats. They come from those things. And so there are a few things that cause problems with those, and one being stress. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today is stress and what is called the pregnenolone steal. So let's see if I can do that. There we go. And so this is your steroid hormone pathway. And we can see where they're using B vitamins, acetyl CoA, and dietary fats. And that goes into this to make the master hormone called pregnenolone. Now, typically, what we want to happen is we want pregnenolone to go down into 17-hydroxypregnenolone to DHA. And this is so when people are having problems with testosterone, they're having problems with their estrogen, they're having problems with production. So when you're thinking about hormones, you can have a production problem, you can have a sensitivity problem, you can have a transport problem, and you can have a detox problem. So there are four issues there, and that's PTSD is the mnemonic for it. So you've got to start to look at where are you having a problem. If we do a hormonal assay and we see you have enough testosterone, estrogen, estradiol, estriol, if you have enough of these and we're still having hormonal symptoms, it's not a production issue. So now we're having either a problem with the transport or we're having a problem with sensitivity. And if we have too many estrogen issues, so if you're a guy and you're getting man boobs, or if you're female and you're getting PCOS, breast lumps, tenderness, and stuff like that, then you're starting to get estrogen dominant, most likely. None of these things are cut, set in stone. But those are when you're starting to get estrogen dominant, and you're probably having a problem with detox, with getting rid of these things. And so this is what we really got to start to think about. And this is what we've started to see is what is called a pregnenolone steal. So instead of converting down into 17-hydroxypregnenolone, we go into 17 alpha hydroxylation. And what causes this? Stress. Stress causes this. So what happens is the pregnenolone gets shunted because you are stressed out. over to progesterone. And then we can go through 11-deoxycorticosterone into aldosterone, which are androgenic in nature, meaning they are more man-like. Then you got progesterone going to 17-hydroxyprogesterone into 11-deoxycortisol. And then here you have cortisol. You start to elevate cortisol into cortisone, and that's what happens, the pregnenolone steal. You're stressed out and you're producing more cortisol and cortisone, so we start to get puffy. We start to retain water, and that stress causes what is called the pregnenolone steal. And so we're shunting this way, and this is a positive feedback loop. So the more stress you have, the more pregnenolone that you steal to progesterone to go down to cortisol to cause more stress to go around and around and around. So the question is, you can put DHEA into the system, and you can start to, in essence, force this to happen, to go down the pathway. But once again, you're just masking symptoms. And if you mask the symptoms, you're never going to get the underlying cause out, and you're going to have all of these hormones building up. So you definitely got to make sure you're detoxing them and getting them out. But what's the true way? What's the best way to actually start to take that and get rid of it? I would say that you do a test and you see what your cortisol is doing. How high is your cortisol? If your cortisol is really high, then you've got to start to do things to lower cortisol. And what's one of the best ways to lower cortisol? Exercise. Get out on a bike. Go, if you're a guy and you have low testosterone. So if you're going through this and you're making more cortisol and cortisone and your testosterone is tanking, if your testosterone is tanking, the best thing to do, I don't know if this will draw. Nope, it won't draw on this one. The best one to do is called high intensity interval training. You're telling the body that I need muscle mass. It starts to go through the processes to build muscle, and that's what you need to do. But another thing that you should absolutely start to do to help lower stress on the body is meditation, prayer. Go for a nice quiet walk in the woods. Do those things that take your body from that stress state to a non-stress state, from sympathetic to parasympathetic. And that takes that pathway from the pregnenolone steal, shunting over to here and down to this way, which allows the body to do all of its normal processes, make the testosterone, make the estrone, make the estradiol. This is the most chemically active. This estradiol is the most chemically active. This is known as E1, this is known as E2, and this is known as E3. So E2 estradiol is the one that we want women to have because it's what runs all your female processes. But you have to have one to be converted to two, and then part of it gets shunted over to three. And those are the things that you really got to start to do. If you're having a hard time getting good sleep, if you're having a hard time getting to where you can calm down, there are adaptogenic herbs that can be used. You can also start to supplement depending on, there are two issues with sleep. Do you have a problem going to sleep, and do you have a problem staying asleep? If you have a problem going to sleep, melatonin is what you start to use, because melatonin will eventually be broken down into serotonin. If you're having a problem staying asleep, they say L-theanine, and my favorite thing to tell people to do for L-theanine is 20 grams of dark chocolate a couple hours before bedtime, because that has plenty of L-theanine in it, and it allows you to calm down. But you really got to kind of know where you're jumping into this pathway at. Are you having high cortisol? Is your face round? Are you fluffy? Then you're having these cortisone. You have high cortisol being shunted into cortisone, and that's that big moon faces and stuff like that. And that's where, if you're doing that, then yeah, we have to know. So that's where testing is involved. An awakening cortisol. We can do a urine first morning void to start to measure metabolites. These are the types of things that have to be vetted out. And, it's one test, and then that will point you into a direction, and you can start to make changes to your diet lifestyle. And then you do another test in 3 or 4 months to peel away the layers of the onion, because these are always in layers. I very rarely is it the first stage or first tier, and then you're in and you're out and you're done. So with that being said, we have the pregnenolone steal, and so this is why you start to see why being stressed all the time is an issue. Things I tell my patients: the 4-7-8 breathing, get up in the morning, stretch, meditate, do those types of things to make sure that you're calm. Take a break in the middle of the day or the afternoon, do another 20-minute meditation. All of these things to lower the cortisol and the stress hormones. After you do that, make sure you're eating good meals, because guess what? If you're eating a lot of sugar and high carbohydrates, well, that ramps the body up. That actually triggers cortisol, and actually it triggers insulin, which triggers inflammatory processes, which puts the body under stress, which causes cortisol. And those are the things that we want to stay away from. So meditation, good sleep, stretching, good food, and then community. Because if the people you're around irritate you, put you on edge, do those types of things, guess what? You're going to stay in that stress state. And that's just not a good position to be in. So with that, we're to the end of our time. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Got anything to add? All right. You guys have a great day. Thank you.